Hey everybody, I'm Tedder
And Weber.
and we're Tedder and Weber.
Weber.
Welcome
back
to episode 12.
Whoa.
12.
12. I feel old
That's
now.
3 months.
That's crazy. Sometimes it feels like a lot less time, and sometimes it feels
I agree with
like
that.
forever.
I agree with that. But thanks for hanging in with us.
Thank you.
We are coming to you for episode 12 to discuss something that we both struggle with, and we recently realized is also very closely tied into comparison, as most things are that we're finding.
Yeah, pretty much.
But Steph brought this topic up, and I was like, that's like a whole episode. We were just like literally chatting, and it was nothing.
It's like, okay.
So now we've decided that it's just going to be an episode. So this is probably going to be a little bit of a shorter episode as well, like that, shorter format that we were kind of moving in towards. And we just wanted to talk about giving yourself grace. So it's really, really, really easy for me.
And me.
And Steph. When someone comes to us and says, oh, like I'm struggling here, I'm struggling there, blah, 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 this is so hard, to be like, oh my gosh, it's okay. Like, to completely give and extend that, like, genuine grace to anyone.
Except ourselves.
Except ourselves.
That's where my ability ends.
So you're really good at, like, helping and being graceful to other people, but, like...
Yeah. I always assume positive intent, and it's very easy to get
You've said that to me a lot. Assume positive intent.
Yeah.
And that has stuck with me, actually.
Is it? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Well, so I say something similar, but it's not worded the same way. I say take them at face value.
Yes.
Take them at face value.
Yep.
If they didn't come at you and say, I hate your guts,
Right.
don't assume that they hate your guts.
Right. Don't read something into it. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about giving yourself some grace.
Yeah.
Because Steph came to me and was like talking about her new job. And I was like, hello.
Yeah. Talking about learning to give yourself some grace.
Why don't you tell us what's going on?
All right. So about a month ago, I accepted a new role. And I have been super excited for this and looking forward to it.
And by a new role, she means like bomb kind of like promotion. So don't downplay it.
Well, I'm a people leader now. So I'm really excited. I have a great team that I work with, and I was so excited when I heard the news, and then I bailed and went on vacation. And so in the 3 or 4 weeks that have passed since then, there have been a lot of things going on that have just kind of taken me away from the transition. Both
like
from
life.
Yeah.
You mean life stuff that happens?
On steroids, yes. It has been absolutely insane personally and professionally, and, just trying to learn. And I still have my old role that I'm trying to fill, and fortunately that team is pretty self-sufficient most days. And
most days.
Thank you.
Gotta put a disclaimer out there.
Yeah, thank you guys for that one. But they don't need micromanaged, which is helpful. So I am having my one-on-ones with my boss, and I had a one-on-one yesterday, and I told her that I don't feel like a rock star, and I don't handle that well, and I apologize for asking questions, and she actually told me, and this is actually a common theme I've reported to her in the past, and she's given me the advice of put your own oxygen mask on first.
That's a good one.
And so she told me yesterday during this one-on-one that I needed to give myself some grace. And that kind of got me thinking that perhaps I have a little room for improvement there. And by a little, I mean a lot.
Just a small amount.
Just a wee bit, right? So, but yeah, it's very hard. I knew my last position very well, and I was able to do it effortlessly most of the time. And so now I'm like second guessing every step that I take, and it's a learning curve. And so I get really excited when I can do something on my own without having to ask anyone. But those moments are rare. Yeah. But I thought it was a very good reminder, regardless of whether you're at work or you're at home or you're on the road, sometimes I zone out. I have ADHD. I zone out. I forget to turn I forget where I'm going. And then I'm like, oh, and I get so angry with myself. But if somebody else had done, I'm like, no big deal.
It's
I'm not in a hurry.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, I'm in a hurry when I'm driving.
Well, I mean, obviously, like, I know where that's stemming from, but for our viewers, let's kind of unpack that a little bit.
Yes. So I'm comparing myself to where I think I should be. And it's totally not fair to myself because I'm learning. I will get there.
But isn't that something we do, like, in so many facets?
Yeah.
I mean, I did that all throughout, like my infertility journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, I remember telling myself, I can't do the one thing that women were put on earth for. Everyone else can have babies. Everyone else popping up pregnant left and right.
False.
But I
that
can't
was your
do...
perception.
Correct.
Yes.
I can't do the one
and
thing.
So apparently you were
Yes.
failing somehow. No,
Yes.
it just wasn't
because
God's plan for you.
Not at the time.
Yes.
Now the quiver is full. But yes.
What is it though?
I don't know. If God has plans, God has plans. Let's just say that. We'll leave it there.
Yeah.
And if you know, you know, and if you don't, I'm sorry.
Yes.
You'll know at some point.
Someday. Yes.
But yeah, I think that, like, I definitely did that to myself a lot in my infertility journey. I could say to anyone else who is struggling with anything, like, oh my gosh, you're too hard on yourself. You're, you know, I mean, I think give yourself grace is a very Christianese kind of thing to say to someone.
Right.
It's true. It's a genuine, it's a well thought out statement, and it's something that we do need to extend. But I think to a non-believer, that may not be as understood as easily.
Yeah, and I think too it can be an empty platitude.
True. I agree with that.
There's some people that are just like, oh, give yourself grace, but they don't really think about what that means.
Well, because in some situations you don't need to tell someone to give themselves grace.
Correct.
Some situations
sometimes
you need to
you're
say,
like, get your head
yeah,
where it belongs.
Or you're like, yeah, you're right. You do need to step up there, girl.
Yeah.
And if you don't have people in your life like that are telling you, yeah, you do need to step up there, find some.
Yeah.
I have lots of people that will tell me the truth though. So, but I think that's because I tell the truth.
Correct.
But I agree with your boss in this scenario, for the record.
But I think it's good to talk about because it's an expectation that I've placed on myself because I'm looking at how I did on my last role.
And how long were you in that role?
4 or 5 years? I don't
know. 4 or 5 years.
3, 4 years.
So
I don't know.
had...
But I was totally clueless when I started.
Right.
And the running joke is anytime I switch roles, it's trial by fire, baby. And that's how I learned so much. And so, like, in the past 3 weeks, I've learned more than I would have learned in a
Which is
6-month period
probably
of time.
adding into your stress at home. That mental
No,
overwhelm.
I think that's just teenagers.
Well, that's also true. But
Sorry,
I think
kid.
when you get, like, that mental overwhelm of your day,
it's very
then it
hard.
carries into your house and carries into the relationships that you have with people. So I don't think we give ourselves enough credit in the respect that we do have power over our emotions.
Yes.
But they also have a lot of power over us.
Correct.
If they go unchecked.
Yes. No, and I think that's a valid thing. I can get so caught up in what I think I should be able to do and what other people that have been in this role for
I hate that. I do the same thing.
And I'm like, oh, well, but at the end of the day, I'm me.
Correct.
On my journey.
Correct.
Learning in the way that I can.
Right. I think that that's a good example to anyone. I mean, the work is a very easy place to feel that level of, like, insecurity that you should be better because you know your skills, you know your abilities, so you're hard on yourself. And sometimes that, you know, being hard on yourself or not giving enough grace, it is a motivator. You can use that to propel you where you're supposed to be.
Correct.
But there are genuine scenarios, you guys, where
it goes off the rails.
It goes off the rails, absolutely. And you're not giving yourself grace because you feel some sort of, like, pseudo space that you're supposed to fill, and or you think like you're failing in some capacity, and
you're probably not.
No. And I think we give ourselves too much credit to think that we could really screw the world up and screw our plan up that much.
Yeah.
So, like, I have to remind myself of that, and a few of my friends, you know who you are. I have to say, girl, we're not that strong. Like, we're strong. but we're not that strong.
Right. Well,
so stop giving yourself that credit. You know what I mean?
And there is that saying of it's something about, how if you think that you've ruined God's plan for your life, sweetheart, you're not that powerful.
Yeah.
That is so incredibly true.
It's true.
Because we put all this pressure on ourselves. I mean, am I going to get fired because I don't know everything that there is to know?
No, but why does it feel that way?
But I put that amount of pressure on myself,
but
and
it's
unfair.
It's unfair to you, and it's unfair to those around you.
Yes.
Because it's an unrealistic expectation that you have on yourself based on the comparison of who you think you're supposed to be.
Correct.
It's a very good sentence. Maybe this should be recorded or something.
I don't know. Do you want to record it sometime?
Maybe we should start recording our conversations.
Maybe we should.
I should preface this and tell you guys that we started this video about a little over 10 minutes ago, and this is just how God works, because prior to recording, we spent about 45 seconds discussing the topic of giving yourself grace, because we were literally just catching up with our lives, and I said, that's a whole episode, so let's go record.
Okay, well, that's a good idea.
So that's just how God works, guys.
Yeah, he guides the conversation, and hopefully, the one person that needs to hear this is watching, right? And we'll get this message, whether it's now or in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're not doing this for views or likes or comments. We appreciate those.
We're like working through our own stuff and just kind of recording it.
It's really cathartic just for our own selves, and we hope that it's cathartic for you as well.
Yeah, but I think it is really important to remember that God pours out grace upon grace upon grace already given, and I know I probably mixed about 5 different versions and translations of that in there, but it's okay. It's the Steph International Translation. It's
my laugh is so, I keep forgetting how loud my laugh is, and I'm so close to the mic, and
I love it.
That I laugh very wholeheartedly, and then I'm like, oh gosh, it's on camera, it's so loud.
But yeah, I think, we're given grace.
Yeah.
We are supposed to give grace to others, but we forget that comparison can put us in that mindset where we're not willing to give ourselves the grace that we need in order to move forward. And that's a growth opportunity for us.
Absolutely. And when we talk about how comparison breeds disconnection, and I think it's easy to remember that comparison breeds disconnection from others. Mm-hmm. But it really does separate you from God. And so when you're not extending yourself grace in situations where it's pertinent, and when you're being unrealistically difficult on your own self, you're not thinking about the grace that God has given you. You're not thinking about the sacrifice he made when he sent his son to die on the cross for our sins.
Correct.
You're not thinking of any of that. You're thinking of your own shortcomings.
Correct.
And that in and of itself is a separation.
Yes. And those shortcomings are supposed to be there because that's how we relate to each other.
Well, and that's how we know we need God.
Right. God's strength is what we draw upon, not our own strength.
Right.
And I think it's hard to remember when we're in those moments and we're like, oh, I'll never get this. I keep trying, or whatever the situation may be.
Right.
But I think that when we can turn around and say, okay, and refocus it on him, and say, this is what he's done for us. This is what he's doing for me right now.
Right.
And he's there. I don't have to shoulder all of this responsibility.
Nope.
I just need to say, okay, I'm open, I'm willing, I'm obedient.
Yep, that's all.
Lord, send me.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great way to end it. So you guys, that's it for episode 12.
We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure that you like, click, comment, subscribe, do all the things, whatever.
Share it with a friend.
It'll be down in the description. But share it. Seriously, if it impacts you, we've been getting some comments
we
on the
appreciate
videos.
that.
We really appreciate it. Lets us know that we're being obedient.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to feel like you're talking to nobody.
Yeah.
But we're willing to do that because that's where God's telling us to be right now. So we're
and
just
I just
here
do
for
it because
that.
she tells me I have to.
That's kind of true.
Yeah, it's a little bit true.
Like where you're showing up at this day, this time. Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes it's hard for us to get everything pulled together in the midst of everything else. So when we hear from someone and just say, hey, this is good, this helped, or whatever, or what are you thinking? And let's just know that it's not just kind of out there.
Yeah, for nothing.
Yeah. So, But we really appreciate you guys joining us.
Absolutely.
And we hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll check back in next week.
Yeah, we'll see you later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.